Hello there and welcome to my guide on how to paint the Masters of the Universe Battleground Panthor and Skeletor set. This guide is also used just to paint Skeletor by himself if you wish. As you can see, I made sure I kept Skeletor separate when I put the models together, and then I sprayed them both with some matte white spray from Colourforge. I'm going to start with Skeletor, and I'm going to use some Panthor blue to paint all the areas of his skin. Don't forget to include his feet that are on the base as well, or you're going to have to go back and then colour match everything from the beginning. All the skin will then be given a wash with some Drakenhof Nightshade. While that wash dries, we're going to move on to Panthor, and we're going to paint his fur with some Screamer Pink. This will then be washed with some Carroburg Crimson. While that layer dries, we'll move back to Skeletor and start painting his skin. So we'll do a 50-50 mix of Panthor Blue and Atolok Blue. Then it's just Atolok Blue by itself. This is then followed up by a mix of Atolok Blue and Hoeth Blue for a 50-50 ratio. Next we're going to do 2 layers of Hoeth Blue just by itself to really sort of brighten up the colour, because at the moment he's looking a bit dark and we want to get him slightly brighter than he is. And then finally we'll do a 50-50 mix of Hoeth Blue and matte white for that final highlight. Then we're going to start working on all his armour and his weapons. For that we're going to use a base coat of Nagaroth Knight. All of which will be given a wash with Druchii Violet. And while that wash dries, we'll move back to Panthor. And to do this, we're going to give a very light overbrush with Screamer Pink mixed with some Pink Horror for a 50-50 ratio. Then we'll do the same with just Pink Horror by itself. Then a very light dry brush of a 50-50 mix of Pink Horror and Matte White. Then for the final highlight, we're going to mix in some Pink Horror and more Matte White for a 70-30 split in favour of Matte White. Then we'll start painting his saddle with some Caliban Green, which will be given a wash with some Beltane Green. Well, that dries, we're going to move back to Skeletor and we're going to start painting his purple, so we're going to use some Xerxes Purple for that. And then we'll highlight it with a 50-50 mix of Xerxes Purple and Matte White. We're going to use some Iron Hand Steel to paint the tiny little bits at the bottom of his belt, along with the orbs on his belt. I'm then going to make his sword metallic by mixing some Xerxes Purple with some Iron Hand Steel. We're going to do that so it's about a 50-50 ratio. And then we'll add a little bit more Iron Hand Steel into the mix, so it's about a 70-30 split for the final highlight. I'm then going to paint his nails with Abaddon Black. And remember to paint the ones that are on Panthor's base. Then the silver on his belt and his black nails will get a coat of Nuln Oil. His face is going to get painted with Morghast Bone, which will be washed with some Army Painter Soft Tone. He's got a little red gem in the centre of his chest, so we're going to paint that with some Mephiston Red. And then give it a very quick highlight with some Evil Sun Scarlet. While the wash on Skeletor's face dries, we're going to go back to Panthor and his saddle, and we're going to use Caliban Green once again just to neaten up everything, avoiding all the recesses. Then we'll do a 50-50 mix of Carroburg Green with the Caliban Green. For the second, we'll just use Caliban Green by itself. And for the final edge highlight, we'll mix some Caliban Green with some Scarabite Green for a 50-50 mix. I'm going to use Mephiston Red to paint his tongue, followed up with some Evil Sun Scarlet for the highlighting. His teeth will get painted with Morghast Bone. which will then be washed with some Army Painter soft tone. And while that dries, we'll move back to Skeletor, and we're going to use some Wraithbone to paint in the details on his face. Be very careful because it's quite tricky to pick his teeth out. And then we'll do the same to the teeth of Panthor. Avalanche Sunset will be used to paint in Panthor's eyes, followed by a tiny little line of Abaddon Black. We'll also use that Abaddon Black to paint Panthor's claws. Then I'm going to use Corvus Black to highlight all the claws and Skeletor's nails. And with that we can finally start working on the base. So I'm going to use some Mournfang Brown to paint everything on the base. And don't forget to paint the hexagon base that they come with as well. I'm then going to use some Skag Brown to highlight all the rocky areas. And on the hexagon base, there's a couple of skulls which I'm going to paint with some Morghast Bone. And these will then get highlighted with some Wraithbone. I'm going to use matte white to paint in the direction indicator on the hex base. And then I'm going to paint all the rims with Abaddon Black. For the hexagon base, it's just going to be that little bit that sticks up near the direction indicator. And for the final step, both bases will get washed with some watered down Agrax Earthshade. Then all you need to do is glue Skeletor to his base. And once he's dried, he's finally out of the way. Once again, Archon Miniatures have done a fantastic job at bringing the He-Man stuff to life, and I really have enjoyed painting it. It didn't take long to paint at all, only about 4 hours, and he was done. Highly recommend it if you can pick him up. He is an online exclusive, but they are releasing this stuff on GameFound soon, so check that out if you want to. Thanks for watching this video. If you made it all the way through to the end, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope it really helps. If you want to see more, subscribe, and I will say goodbye for now. Thanks for watching.